give us a perspective in terms of what does good stand for, and why should an aspirant voter consider good as a party provincially or nationally as well?
Yes, and thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for inviting us here this morning. We appreciate all platforms. Well, I'm not here today to bamboozle you and with a complicated manifesto and promises that we will do. But what I will share with the audience today is our recipe to rebalance our society. And that recipe is built on 4 justices: economic justice, social justice, environmental justice, and spatial justice. So we are not part of the choir in this country that says nothing has changed. It's a damn lie. We know that many things have changed in our country. We've removed some of those apartheid laws. If you look at the census of 2023 by Stats SA, it shows you that many more people have got access to services and all of that. But here's the big but. We could have done better 30 years later. And then we also examine why we have failed not to do better and do much better. So I'm also not even going to go through the speech. So what we are saying is good. We must deal with the unfinished business. There are lots of unfinished business in our country. And that you also don't come with a new plan every 5 years. You need to examine why, first of all, we did not implement what we were supposed to have implemented, especially after Parliament approved budgets every year for departments. So our failure in the country has been failure to implement. It's not that we don't have the money were allocated, lots of the money is returned to Treasury and it's unspent. And then we have to ask a question also, which we have done. Let me put it this way. We must ask government, and we must look at them and say, what are they not doing that they are supposed to be doing in terms of their own policies? Because some of the policies are very good. So it doesn't mean that when you are opposition, you come now with a different policy. Especially when some of the policies are designed to redress the injustices of the past. And then, of course, you have to look at the structure of government. The structure of government to implement currently is failing us. Failing to implement. And therefore, we are saying that unless we come with a plan to transform, to review the structure of government, nothing is going to change on the 1st of June 2024. Nothing will change. So we also have got a proposal how to deal with the structure of government to professionalize the civil service, to make sure, and there's lots of work to be done there. We're also saying that we need to change the systems in government. Corruption is a pandemic in this country, and corruption steals directly from poor people. So we need to redesign government to put systems in place that can prevent and detect corruption. Our problem is that we always, after the event, after the crooks have stolen all the money, then we put up a commission. We are a country run by commissions. If you look at the Zondo Commission, we spent 1 billion rand after the event to go and find out what happened, what went wrong there. We are saying we need to take that money and invest it into the systems within government that can detect and prevent corruption. So that broadly is the context where we are coming from. But in our recipe for changing our country and to put the balance right in our country, our first justice, we looked at the ingredients of social justice. What is social justice? And because we are fighting for social justice. While I make this point about fighting for social justice and economic justice and spatial justice and environmental justice, we are not a party that's fighting against anybody because we hate them. You know, this thing in the political scenario of calling other political parties enemies, we come from a history of hatred. We can't have hatred anymore. We must see ourselves as opponents rather than enemies. And so we have tried to be constructive as we can over the years to rebuild our country. Now, there's no constitutional provision that makes provision that our streets must be litter-free, that we must cut the lawns and all of that. But if you look at the imbalance, certain sectors of our society are spotlessly clean up. But you go to the majority sector of our society and you see the filth and dirt that our people have to live in. So that is the balance that we need to get right. And you can't also talk about social justice when more than 80% of the people of this country live below the poverty line. And therefore, as good 2 years ago, we started a campaign to say that we must get a basic income grant for our country. That the current 350 Rand, which was given during the time of COVID, that must be increased to a minimum of 999 Rand per month.
That sounds very Julius Malema, eh?
No, we've done research. I can give you the research.
But there's no money for that, Patricia.
No, there is money. Corruption steals from the poor. Remember what I said. Please, whenever you know what we cannot afford to do? We cannot afford not to look after the majority of poor people in this country. So I think those of us who've got a roof over our head, we need to show more empathy and sympathy. You know, I mean, if you look at the work that Gift of the Givers are doing and many other organizations, they're always there. So it's not about affordability. I will tell you how we're going to fund that. Okay. But we took it a step further. We said that if we're saying the minimum is 999 Rand per month, we took 50,000 Rand of our own money and we've just put in another 50,000, our own money. And we went into the poorer communities and we said to them, what is it that you can do for yourself to help yourself? A business or something. And here in Ward 82 in Johannesburg, we gave an old lady money, 1,000 Rand. She went to go and buy socks. And the first week when she started selling socks in the flats where they live and on the streets, she made 500 Rand profit. That business is going so well. In fact, she wanted to give back 1,000 Rand, and I said no. There's another example because we rolled it out in 3 provinces, in the Eastern Cape, Western Cape, and Gauteng. In the Eastern Cape, a trained welder, unemployed, we gave him 1,000 Rand, he bought some steel, and today he's making burglar bars. And he's selling the burglar bars. So we are saying that if government can scale up this program, and we create hundreds of these micro businesses, it can help the poor. The poor don't want grants. The poor don't want grants. They want to work and do things for themselves. So let me go on to economic justice. I will take some questions on that about the affordability, where the money must come from. Everybody's asked us that question. Where's the money going to come from? They don't say what we are proposing as less than 2% of our total budget. Because we must get the balance right. We can't forget about our poor people. We will never have social justice. Those rich ones living in this country who are complaining the most. They're complaining the most. But they still have got solar panels on their roof and gated communities and all of that. We must look after the poor. And I don't make any apology for that. But then also under social justice, all of these rights in Chapter 2 of the Bill of Rights. Again, we see that, and the Constitution protects the rights of women and marginalized communities, including the LGBTQI plus community. But still we see, or anybody that's named other. But still we see the increase of gender-based violence in our country. And women and children are murdered and raped all the time. Again, 2 years ago, we took 300,000 rand of our own money and we started a campaign to mobilize women, to say to the women in our campaign, it's still running. Because with women's rights, it shouldn't just be in the month of August. It should be every day of the year. And in the campaign, we said to women, speak up, don't shut up. And it worked. Even within our own party, 2 senior leaders is gone. Yeah. Because we have encouraged our own members to speak up. So I think we have the tools to bring about social justice. It's all in our Constitution. We must just use it. Let me briefly deal with economic justice. Now, when it comes to economic justice, it's a very, very tall order because of the unequal society that we live in. So obviously there's a role for both the private sector and the public sector to build this developmental state that we always talk about. So the state has got the resources to lead the economic recovery of our country. And also because 80% of the jobs is being created by the private sector. But from the state, we are also creating jobs. You've seen the Presidential Public Employment Program, the Extended Public Works Program, the Community Works Programs. We have to reevaluate those programs because are they there to create jobs or is it just a mechanism for poverty alleviation? And we say that we need to bring all of those programs together. They are not very efficient. The impact is not felt. Bring all of those programs together and start an urban management program whereby while people are working, they are trained and they are given a skill. So that must be the role of the state. And then, of course, we're also saying, in terms of the urban management program, what it is that they can do, cleaning the street, fixing the fences. Lots of our towns and our cities are very run down. Then if I can turn quickly to spatial justice. We have not dealt with apartheid spatial planning in the 30 years of our democracy. The indictment on all of us, all 3 spheres of government, is that we continue the apartheid spatial planning by even taking our people further and further away from opportunities. So, apartheid spatial planning, and again here, I talk out of experience because I have done it when I was the mayor of the city of Cape Town for 8 years. And by the way, that was my fallout with the DA, because they didn't like me to bring people of color closer to the city and integrate people into the city. So the apartheid spatial planning must be dealt with, and we can do it. We can prioritize well-located housing, subsidized housing, closer to work opportunities. Currently, poor people spend 40% of that little income just to travel to work. So we have to have a transport system. Now, we can't move all of those communities immediately from where they are right now, from Soweto or from Langa or Guguletu, no. But the least what we can do is to mitigate their suffering by having an affordable public transport system so that they don't have to pay all of this money. Then, of course, in terms of dealing with apartheid spatial planning, we are saying that public land must be used for public good. We shouldn't be selling off good, well-located public land to developers, because that's what municipalities are doing. We are saying that all three spheres of government, national-owned land, provincial-owned land, and local government, not all the land is in the hands of national government, that all three spheres of government, and there is a spatial development plan that was adopted in 2021. I don't know who's looked at it, because it is there.
Sure.
How to fix the zoning, how to integrate, but the idea to use public land for public good, that must be a priority. And then I've looked at the asset. I was in charge of the asset register of South Africa for 3 years. There is a piece of legislation called GIHAMA, the Government Immovable Asset Management Act. And there's one clause in clause 5 in GIHAMA that has never been even looked at or implemented in the past 30 years, where in fact that clause says that government land must be used for poverty alleviation, to deal with the socio-economic conditions, to integrate society. But government has become a salesman, commercialized. That clause has not been implemented. But in short, what it's saying, it is saying that we should be using public land for public good.